Welcome to Big Idea Hardly, where you can learn something new in just a few minutes. Today we study together Martin Heidegger's Introduction to Philosophy, in which we probe into the intricate relationship between human existence and the very essence of philosophizing, questioning the conventional boundaries between philosophy, science, and Weltanschauung. Born in southern Germany, Martin Heidegger, 1889-1976, taught philosophy at the University of Freiburg and the University of Marburg. Don't go away, Hurdley the editor will be right back with the story. When diving into the depths of Heidegger's exploration of philosophy, we encounter a profound challenge to the traditional boundaries that define human thought. Heidegger doesn't merely ask what philosophy is. He confronts us with the unsettling realization that to be human is already to be entangled in the act of philosophizing. This perspective flips our understanding of philosophy from a discipline that one enters from the outside to an intrinsic part of our very being. Heidegger boldly states, to be human already means to philosophize, urging us to rethink our relationship with philosophy, not as an abstract academic pursuit, but as a fundamental expression of our existence. Heidegger's emphasis on the inherent nature of philosophizing in human existence brings forth the question: if we are always philosophizing, even without knowing it, then how does this philosophical engagement manifest in our daily lives? This leads to a deeper investigation into the interplay between philosophy, science, and Weltanschauung, worldview, and how these elements shape our understanding of reality. The role of science in philosophy. Heidegger challenges the conventional view that philosophy is merely another science. He argues that philosophy is not a science in the traditional sense, but rather something more profound. Philosophy, he suggests, is the foundation from which all sciences emerge, yet it cannot be reduced to scientific methods or empirical inquiry. Heidegger explains, philosophy is not science, not on account of a shortcoming. Rather, it is on account of an excess that it cannot be science. This notion is vividly illustrated through Heidegger's reflection on the crisis in modern science. He recounts the story of a physicist who, deeply entrenched in the empirical world, begins to question the very foundations of his scientific beliefs. As this scientist delves deeper into the philosophical underpinnings of his discipline, he realizes that his scientific work, while rigorous and methodical, lacks a fundamental understanding of the essence of being. This crisis leads him to a transformative realization that the pursuit of truth in science is incomplete without a philosophical inquiry into the nature of existence itself. In this story, Heidegger emphasizes that science, while powerful in its scope and precision, remains insufficient in addressing the deeper questions of existence. Science, he argues, must be seen as a product of philosophical thought, rather than as a standalone endeavor. This realization forces us to reconsider the role of philosophy in guiding and shaping the sciences, suggesting that without philosophy, science loses its direction and purpose. Philosophy and Weltanschauung, shaping our worldview. The relationship between philosophy and Weltanschauung is another critical aspect of Heidegger's thought. He argues that philosophy is not just a worldview or a system of beliefs, but is fundamentally tied to the way we exist in the world. Heidegger writes, Weltanschauung as held bearing and the confrontation with beings arising from it captures how our understanding of the world is constantly shaped and reshaped by our philosophical engagements. Heidegger uses the story of a young student who enters the university with a conventional worldview, shaped by societal norms and expectations. This student, through the process of philosophical inquiry, begins to question the foundations of his beliefs. As he engages with Heidegger's lectures, he undergoes a profound transformation, where his previous worldview crumbles, and he is left to rebuild his understanding from the ground up. This transformation is not just intellectual but existential, as the student learns to see the world not through the lens of pre-existing beliefs, but as something to be continually explored and questioned. This narrative illustrates Heidegger's belief that philosophy is not merely an academic exercise, but a vital process that shapes our very being. Our Weltanschauung, or worldview, is not something fixed. It is dynamic and ever-evolving, driven by our philosophical explorations. Philosophy, in this sense, becomes a tool for personal and existential transformation, enabling us to confront and reshape the very foundations of our existence. The historical dimension of philosophy. Another significant dimension of Heidegger's exploration is the historical context in which philosophy operates. He suggests that philosophy cannot be understood apart from its historical development, as it is deeply intertwined with the history of human thought and existence. Heidegger states, "Our consideration of philosophy and science, philosophy and Weltanschauung, entails at the same time the underlying question: how does philosophy in general relate to history, that is, to the essential determination of human design itself, which is in itself historical?" Heidegger illustrates this with the story of a historian who, in studying the development of philosophical ideas, begins to see the patterns of thought that have shaped different eras. This historian realizes that philosophical concepts are not static. They evolve in response to the changing conditions of human existence. Through this historical lens, the historian comes to understand that his own philosophical inquiries are part of a larger continuum, influenced by the thoughts and ideas of those who came before him. This story underscores Heidegger's point that philosophy is not an isolated discipline, but one that is deeply embedded in the historical context of human life. Understanding philosophy, therefore, requires an awareness of its historical development and how it has been shaped by the existential conditions of different epochs. This historical consciousness is essential for a deeper engagement with philosophical ideas, allowing us to see our own place within the broader trajectory of human thought. The unity of philosophy, science, and Weltanschauung Heidegger ultimately seeks to show that philosophy, science, and Weltanschauung are not separate entities, but are deeply interconnected. Philosophy provides the foundation for science, giving it direction and meaning, while Weltanschauung is shaped and reshaped through philosophical inquiry. Heidegger's insistence on the unity of these elements challenges the compartmentalization of knowledge that often characterizes modern academia. In illustrating this unity, Heidegger recounts the story of a philosopher-scientist who integrates his scientific work with his philosophical inquiries. This individual refuses to see his work in science as separate from his philosophical beliefs, recognizing that his approach to scientific questions is inherently shaped by his worldview. As he delves deeper into both realms, he discovers that his scientific and philosophical pursuits are not only complementary, but a part of a single, unified quest for understanding. This realization leads to breakthroughs in both his scientific work and his philosophical understanding, as each informs and enriches the other. This story reflects Heidegger's belief that true understanding comes from the integration of philosophy, science, and Weltanschauung. By breaking down the barriers between these fields, we open ourselves to a more holistic and profound engagement with the world, where knowledge is not fragmented but unified in a comprehensive exploration of existence. Conclusion. As the editor of Hardly, through studying these intricate relationships, we open the door to a future where our pursuit of knowledge is not confined by artificial boundaries, but is enriched by a holistic integration of philosophy, science, and worldview, enabling us to navigate the complexities of existence with greater clarity and depth. In revisiting the key argument, that human existence is inextricably linked to the act of philosophizing, blurring the lines between philosophy, science, and Weltanschauung, we further validate the profound insight Heidegger offers. He posits that to be human is to be engaged in a constant philosophical inquiry, whether consciously or not, and that this inquiry shapes our understanding of the world, science, and our very being. One compelling story that underscores this notion involves an elderly professor who, after decades of teaching science, realizes that his life's work has been driven by an unacknowledged philosophical quest. As he nears retirement, he begins to reflect on the deeper meaning of his scientific pursuits, questioning the assumptions he had long taken for granted. This reflection leads him to a transformative realization. His scientific endeavors were always rooted in a search for understanding beyond empirical data, a quest for the essence of existence itself. This epiphany reignites his passion, not just for science but for life, as he begins to view his work as part of a larger philosophical journey. This story beautifully illustrates Heidegger's argument that philosophy is not a separate discipline, but an integral part of our existence. It shows how the boundaries between science, philosophy, and Weltanschauung are not rigid but fluid, and how our understanding of one inevitably shapes our engagement with the others. In the end, Heidegger encourages us to see our lives not as segmented between different realms of knowledge, but as a unified whole, where every thought and action is a step in the ongoing process of philosophizing.